The heat over Kuhor's eastern road shimmered like beaten brass, blurring the parched horizon until earth and sky merged in a wavering haze. A lone rider advanced at a measured walk, the iron-shod hooves of his black courser clicking over sun-baked stones. Where once prince and pretender had cantered at the head of glittering columns, now VISERYS Targaryen traveled with no more ceremony than a sellsword, yet each deliberate step carried the weight of a crowned destiny long denied. He rode bareheaded, silver-gold hair darkened with dust and sweat, a single braid coiled behind his ear in the fashion of the Giscari slaves he had once mocked. The braid was a reminder humiliation could be survived. On his belt hung no dragon-forged blade, only a plain Bravosi saber with a chased bronze grip. Its honest steel had tasted blood often in the past 2 years, and each drop had steeled the rider's resolve. At the crest of a low ridge, VISERYS paused. To the west sprawled the ragged camps of the Golden Company, 100 Kukchi sires curling smoke into the bronze sky, pavilions dyed sunset red and dusk blue, scarred banners drooping in the windless heat, serpentining sigils, laughing skulls, the black wyvern of bitter steel, and nuance stitched upon cloth of pale ivory, a 3-headed dragon rampant. The sight caught in his throat, half choke and half prayer. He reined in, savoring the hush before pilgrimage's end, and the horse shook its mane as though impatient with ceremony. Soon, the prince whispered to beast and banners alike. Soon, the dragon flies home. He nudged the courser downhill, weaving between sweating columns of infantry drilling with pikes. Gold inlaid greaves flashed. Sergeants bellowed in half a dozen tongues. Children beat dented kettle drums to keep the cadence, their cheeks hollow with hunger, but their eyes bright with coin-gleam dreams. VISERYS smelled boiled onions, leather oil, and the pungent reek of horses that had marched from the disputed lands to the edge of the Dothraki Sea. In leagues of exile, all converging upon this dusty plain, and himself their fulcrum. At the command pavilion, Black Balak stood, sentinel, arms crossed over a bare chest laced with pink scar tissue. The Summer Islander's gaze was cool, but iron respect rang in his deep voice. "Prince," he acknowledged, lowering his head the span of a finger. VISERYS dismounted without flourish and handed the reins to a stable boy. "Is the captain inside? He awaits you alone." Balak drew back the canvas flap. Within, the heat softened to a velvet gloom. Maps littered a trestle table, weighted by daggers. Horns of watered wine sweated upon a battered chest. Behind the table sat Harry Strickland, the drink-reddened rings beneath his eyes at odds with the razor precision of his posture. He gestured to a stool opposite. "Our quartermasters report we need coin," Strickland began without greeting. "Fodder costs have doubled. The Myrish bankers grow cautious. They want collateral beyond promises and names." VISERYS unbuckled his sword belt, set steel across his knees, and folded lean hands atop the pommel. "Names buy crowns," he said, "and crowns repay loans in rivers of silver." "Perhaps," Strickland tapped a finger on the map of the narrow sea, "but a company devours coin faster than dragons breathe fire." "I have neither coin nor dragon's fire," VISERYS allowed, voice low. "What I possess is a birthright and a cause. Men die for less." Strickland's mouth twisted, cynicism or amusement, difficult to tell. "Men die for pay," he said. "Yet they live for stories. Give them a story that ends with gold, and perhaps they will cross the world." VISERYS leaned forward. "Then let us write it." Night settled with a hush that felt almost holy. Campfires ringed the command tent like votive candles, flickering gold upon canvas. VISERYS stood before them as Strickland's herald struck twin blows upon a bronze gong. From the jumble of tents, mercenaries drifted, seasoned spearmen mended by Cahoric surgeons, axemen from lists with laughter too brittle, boys whose first kill still haunted their sleep. They formed ragged half-circles, 6,000 souls ringed by dusk and curiosity. Viserys stepped onto a low crate. The murmur hushed. He let the silence stretch until breath itself became a shared heartbeat. "You know my name," he began, words pitched to carry yet intimate as confession. "You have heard 100 tales, each twisted like the river roaring beneath moonlight. Listen now to the only tale that matters." He spoke of fire and blood, of a line older than the free cities, of a throne forged in dragon flame and stolen beneath a false stad's banner. He told of his mother's labor in fleeing smoke and ash, of storm-lashed nights upon the narrow sea, when hunger gnawed as deep as grief, of wandering courts where smiles were daggers. He confessed to pride, to folly, to the bitter kiss of molten gold. He narrowly escaped when a queen's whim spared him, though he did not name Daenerys nor speak the madness of Khalasar and Red Comet. Some wounds remained unvoiced, else they bled anew. Instead he painted tomorrow. Ships crowding Blackwater Bay, golden elephants trumpeting upon King's Landing's docks, serried ranks of spears glinting beneath the towers of Old Town, Dornish princes raising walls of shields in welcome, the small folk casting down lion banners, cheering the dragon reborn. He promised pardons to honest men, justice to traitors, land and lordship to the worthy. For the Golden Company he reserved a special pledge, 50,000 gold dragons the day his crown boots touched the Red Keep's basalt, and choice of castles for every captain. "Long have you served exiles," he said, voice raw with fervor. "Tonight serve the rightful king returned. Take Westeros, and claim what reward the realm itself shall pay." He drew his Braavosi saber, its edge dull in firelight yet potent as a vow. Point sinking into earth, he knelt before the captains. "Bind sword to sword with me. I swear by blood and shadow that none here will leave Westeros poorer than he arrived." A quiet moment, brittle as frost. Then Black Balak advanced, unsheathed his arak, and crossed blades above Viserys' bowed head. One by one the captains followed. Melee's Rivers, with his storm-scar visage, Lan Lysander, the sweet sister bastard, Jorah Shet out of Stonehelm exile. Steel kissed steel in a lattice of oaths. When the last clang echoed, Viserys rose. "In the name of bitter steel," Strickland proclaimed, "I name Viserys, of House Targaryen, commander of the Golden Company, until the Iron Throne is his by conquest, or his corpse by pyre." Aurora answered, ragged, fierce, hungry. Viserys felt it vibrate in bone and marrow, music stronger than dragon song. He lifted his saber toward the bleeding stars. Preparations consumed a moon turn. The company broke camp in dust and discipline, marching east to Volantis, where ships could be bought with promissory notes and the promise of plunder. On the long bridge, perfumed nobles watched the sellswards tramp beneath elephant-lit arches, whispering of prophecy and ruin. Viserys kept his cloak plain, yet whispers followed like surf after tide. A riverman trader offered him a polished helm shaped as a dragon's snarling visage, emeralds for eyes. He refused. Symbols were powerful, but mystery more so. Let Westeros wonder which shadow bore down upon them. At the docks, galleys bobbed beneath crimson awnings. Viserys walked plank to plank, inspecting bilges and ballistae. He spoke with shipwrights over bribes measured in pearls. He rewrote manifests until hulls brimmed with grain instead of caged pleasure slaves. Soldiers grumbled, but bread wins sieges. He knew starvation broke kingdoms quicker than steel. Nightfall found him lean over a weather-worn railing, staring westward where darkness swallowed sea. Footsteps approached, soft, deliberate. Mia Misari, the company's latest pay scribe, laid a sealed parchment beside his hand. "From Pentos," she murmured. VISERYS slit wax with a thumbnail. Illyria's curling script unfurled across the page. Daenerys Targaryen besieges Meereen. Dragons grown wild. Rumors of madness. The prince's throat constricted. He crushed parchment in a fist, sea spray freckling his knuckles. Bad news? Maya asked. A reminder. He opened his fingers. Paper fragments tumbled to black water. That history is written in ash when dragons quarrel. Maya eyed him sidelong. Will her path cross ours? VISERYS considered orange lantern glow on waves. If she sits Meereen's broken walls, she has further to sail than I. He turned from the rail. And I will not wait. She fell into step beside him. You would fight your sister. I would crown her if she kneels, he said. The wind flattened his cloak against a lean frame, steel-forged by 2 years of campaigning. If she stands. He left the sentence unfinished. Some truths struck colder than night breezes. 10 days later, the fleet curved south along Valyria's smoking shores. Ash-gray haze veiled twisted spires and collapsed causeways, the bones of empire rotted by doom. Sailors muttered prayers to any god who might hear above that sluggish, fuming sea. VISERYS stood on the prow of the flagship Basilisk's grin, eyes fixed upon charred promontories where once dragon lords had spoken high Valyrian as common speech. Firelight from fissures flickered beneath low clouds, as though the land itself still smoldered with ancient grief. He raised a gloved hand toward the distant ruin. I will not fail as they did, he promised the stones, the surf, the horrified crew. Fire may fall, kingdoms crumble, but the dragon will endure. No one dared answer. Even Strickland kept silent, hat plumes drooping in damp heat. Beyond Valyria, the summer storms found them. For 3 nights, thunder rolled like war drums, and lightning sketched livid scars across the sailcloth sky. On deck, men lashed themselves to railings. Masts creaked, ballistae groaned. VISERYS refused the cabin, standing shoulder-deep in rain until skin numbed and thoughts sharpened to bright edges. Death whispered in every wave crest. But he tasted exultation. If the narrow sea devoured him now, the tale would be half told, yet better half a legend than no legend at all. At dawn the storm broke. Sunlight spilled scarlet over heaving swells. Somewhere astern a galley burned, masts snapping like tinder. Longboats fished survivors from debris, while gulls circled, shrieking. VISERYS supervised the rescue, his voice hoarse but steady as he directed line throwers. One sailor, no older than 15, kept shouting for his drowned twin. The prince held the boy's shoulders until spasms eased, then set him to coil rope. Grief forged blades, but idleness rusted them. That dusk, Strickland found VISERYS alone upon the quarterdeck, wringing seawater from hair. You saved good men, the captain observed, and lost 2 ships. Ships can be built, VISERYS said, but stories of drowning kings linger. Strickland studied him. Many expected a perfumed princeling. They find instead a commander who shares the danger. The prince's smile was thin as sailcloth. I learned that a man who saves another writes loyalty upon flesh, not parchment. When at last the watch cried, "Stepstones," men flooded to rails. Low cliffs rose from steel-blue water. Gulls wept and forbidding. VISERYS ordered signal flags. Break the fleet into squadrons, each to seize an islet harbor and anchor under cliff shelter. Pieces of the Golden Company spilled onto bona-white strands, driving stakes for palisade and latrine. Here, on these barren rocks, once ruled by outlaws, the prince convened his war council. They met in a cave high above surf, where ancient smugglers had carved benches from limestone. A salt-stained table bore rough models, driftwood castles for King's Landing, painted stones for Lannisport, bits of black obsidian for the Red Keep's secret tunnels. Strickland opened a palm. King Tommen Baratheon holds the capital, backed by Lord Mace Tyrell's host. The Iron Isles raid the western coast. The north bleeds from Bolton Blades. Dragonstone lies empty, its garrison meager. Now did Tuom. Shiaosai. Xiaodunde. Nostra. Viserys tapped the obsidian hill carved as dragonstone. My banner will fly there first. Let every raven proclaim that the dragon has reclaimed his cradle. Storm over Storm's End, asked Balai, tracing a scar. Not yet. Viserys swept models aside until only King's Landing remained. We march upon the capital once our foothold is secure. Tyrell gold may buy loyalty, yet gold melts when fire grows hot. He lifted a sliver of flint, his sister's rumored dragons, then set it silently beside the city. Yora Shet frowned. If Daenerys sails west, we may face more than roses and lions. Viserys' gaze hardened. We face whatever stands between us and the throne. Prepare to face dragons if need be. Strickland exhaled, slow. Then we will need allies within the walls. The small folk recall the Targaryen name, said Viserys. They will rise if given the spark. And the Sparrow Zealots? Lysander asked. They hold power in the capital's streets. Faith bends to prophecy, the prince replied, though doubt coiled beneath his breastbone. Prophecy was a blade that cut wielder and foe alike. Weeks of raiding followed. Golden Company scouts captured Taroshi fishing sloops, reflagged them in black and red, and ferried vanguard troops across narrow channels. Viserys led the first landing upon Dorne's lonely coast at Breaker's Point, a desolate shore seldom patrolled. They came ashore beneath new moon dark, the prince splashing through surf in silence, sword high to keep salt from the steel. 70 men scaled sandstone cliffs, slit the throats of a token garrison, and raised the dragon banner before dawn's gray. When Dornish outriders arrived, they found the walls painted with the words, "He's come again." Viserys left a token force to hold the fortlet and marched inland, skirting villages rather than pillage. He ordered coin to pay for grain, never theft. Word spread faster than hoofbeats. The dragon prince marched with sellswords yet paid his debts. Small folk whispered of Rhaenys' laughter in his eyes, Aegon's wrath in his spine. Some bent knee when he rode through dusty squares. Others spat, memories of wildfire still sharp. The prince accepted both homage and hatred with equal calm. It was not love he required, only recognition. Messages flew from his camp to Sunspear, to Old Town, even to River Run, where rumor said a Tully daughter still defied the crown. Each parchment carried the same pledge: land, peace, old wrongs amended beneath dragon wings. Responses trickled like winter streams. Many lords weighed risk against hope, yet a few sent envoys. Housdane of Starfall dispatched a silver-haired knight sworn to serve. A young lordling of House Hightower offered coin and knowledge of Old Town's hidden passages. Viserys received each with measured courtesy, etching fissures into the realm's brittle unity. Autumn winds nipped the stepstones. By the time full muster stood ready, 10,000 infantry behind Black Kent gold shields, 3,000 horse beneath striped pennants, 17 siege towers lashed to cargo decks. Elephants, captured in the Basilisk Isles, trumpeted across gangplanks, their footfalls shaking timber. Above all hung the prince's banner, red drake upon pale smoke. Viserys addressed them from the quarterdeck of the Young Griff, the name a jest Strickland scarcely appreciated. Yet when the prince began, jest faded upon sea wind. "Each of you bears a tale," he said, voice carrying over restless waves. Some fled treachery, some hunger, some justice too harsh. Now you stand upon the edge of a greater tale, one that will be sung when these seas are dust. I do not promise ease. I promise purpose. When the histories speak of this hour, let them say that upon this deck, on this dawn, the broken and the lost choked. He drew his saber. The blade caught first sunlight, dull still, yet bright as banners in 10,000 eyes. The cheer erupted, rolling across water like thunder chasing storm cloud. The crossing of the narrow sea proved swifter than charted. Steady westerlies filled patched sails, oars bit foam with relentless rhythm. VISERYS scarcely slept. He spent nights poring over reports, King's Landing's granaries half empty, storms and garrison by sellswords unpaid, Casterly Rock short of adult lions. Every weakness became a thread in his tapestry. 3 days out from Blackwater Bay, a raven arrived from the Dornish marches. Lord Bryce Caron pledged allegiance, raising 500 retainers. VISERYS allowed himself one breath of satisfaction. For every banner that rose, another would falter. Momentum forged its own gravity. Yet fate conjured storms uncharted on any map. On the second night of full sail, the lookout's bell clanged. Sails to north, bearing the crowned stag and golden rose. Lord Paxter Redwine's fleet patrolled summer waters still, 24 wine-red galleys bristling with scorpions. Strickland urged caution, swing south, slip past at dusk. VISERYS weighed counsel against Gut's iron tug. Breakers and rocks lie south, he said. North holds enemy steel, but steel may break before will. We strike. Mel. The captains exchanged startled looks. The prince who had preached prudence now sought battle, yet doubt died at the fire in his gaze. Command flags snapped, drums thumped. Sails were reefed for maneuver, elephants chained, cavalry horses hooded to muffle terror. And as dawn bled peach and rose across crests, the Golden Company angled toward Redwine's van. What followed was no dance of courts, but a butcher's staccato. Ballista bolts hummed, splintering railings. Firepots arced, smashing decks into hungry flame. VISERYS stood helmless upon the prow, directing volleys with the precision of a jeweler setting gems. Twice arrows grazed his tunic, once a splinter carved cheekbone to jaw, painting him in his own red paint. He never flinched. The men saw, and cheers drowned screams. By noon, 6 red wine galleys listed, their fine cedar keels sundered. One burning hull drifted close. The prince ordered grapnels thrown, boarding planks slammed. He led the charge across smoking timbers, saber carving brutal arcs. A Tyrol sergeant lunged with boar spear. VISERYS stepped inside, drove pommel into teeth, then hamstrung the man in a whirl of pale hair and crimson spray. Blood steamed upon charred deck. The prince took a half moment to breathe, chest heaving, then pressed onward. When the Stag Rose flagship Autumn's Mercy struck colors, the red wine rear broke. Some fled north, others south, but many simply hove to, crews flinging arms aside. VISERYS ordered survivors quartered, wounded tended. He walked among them after, face streaked and eyes bright, offering water. Terror and awe met in every glance. Strickland found him binding a cut on his forearm. "You risk much," the captain muttered. "I earn more," VISERYS replied. "All Westeros will hear that the dragon rides the waves once more." At sunset, a stiff wind drove the battered but exultant fleet into Blackwater Bay. King's Landing's walls loomed sullen beneath smoke-rose clouds. VISERYS watched the red keep's towers catch last light, rubies upon rusted iron. No wildfire glimmered, no dragons guarded. Yet ghosts thronged every stone, haunting both conqueror and conquered. He tasted salt, not of sea, but of memory. Here Rhaegar died, here crown was lost. Horns blared from the city, panicked shrill. On the parapets, gold cloaks scurried like ants, raising crossbows against the armada that had thundered from horizon to harbor in one unbroken push. Viserys surveyed them with half-lidded eyes. Men paid in debased silver could be bought anew. He lifted a speaking trumpet. "Citizens of King's Landing." His voice rolled across still water. "Do not fear the dragon's return. Fear the chains that bind you to famine and war. Throw wide the gates, and no sword shall harm you." No answer but wind and gull cry. Yet seeds were sown. "I de nuis." He ordered anchors dropped, siege towers prepared, but no assault that night. Let the city simmer in dread and possibility. In his cabin, candlelight flickered over a map of the capital. My emissary read fresh reports. Bred riots inside the city, whispers that Queen Margaery had retreated to the Red Keep's innermost chambers. Viserys traced the streets with ink-stained finger. Flea Bottom would rise first. He would feed them. Bread as sharp as spears. Before sleep, he wrote one letter. To Daenerys Targaryen, care of Meereen. I sail with fire in my veins, yet I would share it, not spill it. Come, stand beside me, or stand aside. He sealed it with red wax, bearing the three-headed dragon, then held seal against cool glass of stern castle window. Distant torches glittered atop the city walls like scattered embers. He wondered if sisters once exiled onto shadow could find kinship in flame. Morning brought omen. A white raven fluttered to the flagship's mast, messenger of Old Town's citadel. Winter declared. Viserys broke the seal with steady hands. Cold and hunger would soon march alongside his host, allies more ruthless than any warlord. He smiled a smile sharp enough to cut. Winter's cloak would smother Tyrell harvests, Lannister lines of supply. And in winter, the dragon's breath burned brightest. He strode upon deck, hair snapping silver in frigid breeze. "Raise anchors," he commanded. "Land the infantry. We take the Blackwater ashore." Men cheered none too loud. They felt winter in their bones. Yet they followed, the company that kept its promises. Viserys walked first down the gangplank, boots crunching upon frost-rimmed sand. He knelt, scooped a handful of Westerosi soil, and let it sift through fingers like hourglass grains. "Home," he whispered. A gull screeched overhead. Some omen, perhaps of blood. Ahead lay the broken walls of a realm at war with itself. A realm whose memory still echoed with the roar of dragons. Behind him stretched the uneasy loyalty of sellswords and fractured houses. Above, winter's clouds massed cold and heavy. Viserys Targaryen drew his saber, blade glinting in pallid dawn. With measured steps, he advanced toward the city that had cast him out before his first breath. Each footfall marked the beat of a great wheel beginning to turn anew, grinding stone and flesh and fate itself beneath inexorable spokes. He did not hurry. Conquest, like revenge, is savored best when paced as slow as winter's first killing frost. And somewhere beyond those walls, a throne of black iron waited, silent, patient, and hungry for the one who dared claim it at last. Viserys stands at the lip of the tide-blackened strand until the fleet's anchors finish grumbling through the surf and the weight of a continent settles into his marrow. Salt wind tugs his cloak. Gulls wheel over the serrated palisade of masts now tilting under their cargo of siege towers. He tastes brine and winter on his tongue, and beneath that, the iron of possibilities so sharp it burns. He strides inland, every pace measured, boots scoring wet sand. The Blackwater smell, tar, bilge, faint rot, marries the coarse tang of frost-bitten mud. Behind him, the Golden Company files into column, elephants wrapped in storm-damp blankets, archers hooded in striped cloaks, halberdiers tapping hafts 3 times for luck. Drummers keep heartbeat rhythm, low, deliberate, so the sound threads through the dawn hush like veins of molten copper. A mile up the slope, Chalky scrub becomes stunted pine. Viserys calls a halt beneath crooked boughs. Ahead lies the first of the burned villages that dot the Kingswood, charred shells moldering since Stannis' war for the throne. He read those chronicles in Pentos. Now the ruin greets him like an omen cast in soot. He gestures, and scouts slip forward. Balak's panther-quick spearmen, Lysander's bowmen light-footed as the sparrows roosting in eaves. They vanish among thickets where ravens croak and take wing. Viserys waits, hands clasped behind his back, saber still sheathed. A leader must learn to savor the discipline of inaction, the quiver before release. Minutes spool. A raven caws thrice, prearranged signal. No enemy patrols, no hidden crossbowmen, only silence thick as unworked clay. Viserys lifts a gauntleted fist. The column advances. They reach the husk of a tavern whose signboard, split by storm and age, dangles on one chain. Charcoal peppered the thatch. The hearth collapses inward with a sigh. Viserys steps over shattered threshold and kneels upon ash-flecked floorboards. He closes his eyes and imagines laughter once filling this room. Spilled ale, the clang of tankards, memory and prophecy coil together. The realm must taste such life again, else his crown be forged in a corpse grin. Outside, Balak finds a withered apple tree bearing 5 fruit, hard as iron. He cracks one open with dagger hilt, finds the core black. Long war, he murmurs when Viserys emerges, voice pitched low. They burn, no one sows. Then we shall sow, Viserys answers, though the words ring thin in the empty air. They bivouac by the village well. Carpenters shore up palisade stakes. Cooks boil river water with onions carried in sailcloth sacks. Viserys eats standing, one heel of stale bread, a ladle of onion broth. Around him soldiers whisper. The prince dines no finer than they, so rumor of equality fans like sparks and straw. Strickland approaches after dusk, cloak glittering with hoarfrost. Urar's returned, he reports. King's Landing's gates remain shut. Tommen's lords muster on the Roserad. 10,000 under Mace Tyrell march north at haste. Our window narrows. Knees? Viserys studies the dying embers of a cook fire. Let Lord Mace march. We turn the window into a mirror and make him see his own reflection too late. That night beneath a tent whose canvas sweats dew, he pores over ink maps lit by tallow stub. Maya Misari reads dispatches by his elbow, charcoal smudging her knuckles. One raven from Storm's End. The garrison there mutters about back pay. Another from Duskendale. Whispers that bastard sons of Darklands will rally if the dragon calls. Open a purse. Viserys instructs. Send promises now, coin later, but wait the promises with oaths sworn on my blood. Your blood buys much, Maya remarks, gaze flicking to the scab on his cheek. It buys tomorrow, he says, pen scratching seal. Before first light, he and 50 horse slip from camp, cloaked as common outriders. The Kingswood swallows them. Cold dirt muffles hooves. Viserys rides at point. Strickland protested, of course, yet the prince overruled. He must taste the realm's pulse in its arteries, not through bandaged reports. They skirt the Blackwater rush until the river narrows to waist-deep ford. Here, reeds rattle in morning wind, brittle like old parchment. Viserys dismounts, crouches, cups water. Reflected, the sky shows bruised purple clouds, the storm crow's cloak. He drinks. Cold bites his teeth, clears cobwebbed out. Beyond the ford, a hamlet clings to a ridgeline of clay. Hovels sag, like old men. Rag-clad children stare hollow-eyed. A woman breasts bared sits in doorway, rocking a bundle too still. Viserys halts his escort, removes leather purse, and presses coins into the woman's palm. Silver clinks like shy bells. She looks up, eyes the unearthly shade of wet slate, then murmurs, "Dragon." Not accusation nor blessing, only the plain naming of a fact. The word passes from child to child, whispered, widening like ripples. When Viserys remounts, sunlight stabs through the clouds, a spear of gold lancing the ridge. Dust motes downs. He feels watchers unseen, hears hearts quicken in cowed chests. Every coin becomes a rumor. The prince pays, the prince cares, the prince returns. They ride on until the Red Keep's ramparts looms slate against evening stormlight. From this vantage, the city sprawls like a splayed spider, legs of bricks and alleys curling around the river mouth. Cook smoke rises in languid spirals. Bells toll prayer at the great sept. Viserys studies the wall's rhythm. Merlons chipped, patrol rotations lax die. Gold cloaks lean board against parapets, half armor unbuckled. Complacency, his favorite co-conspirator. Under cover of dusk, he slips closer, 2 scouts at heel. They creep to a postern half hidden by blackberry thicket. Rust flakes the hinges. Once Arya Stark fled through that breach. Viserys read every tale of the War of 5 Kings. He touches iron's flaking lip, feels memories echo. Men seldom mend the whole's history tears. When he returns to camp, rain begins, thin needles that patter on pavilions like hurried fingertips. He gathers captains in a circle lit by guttering torches. Mud sucks at boots, sparks drift upward, vanish. Viserys speaks without crest or crown, yet the wind itself seems to hush. "We do not bludgeon the city," he says. "We bleed its will." He outlines his plan. Block Roserad caravans with cavalry strikes. Poison wells feeding the castle cisterns. Harmless bittering herbs. Nothing mortal, merely fear. Smuggle bread into flea bottom stamped with the dragon's 3 heads. A promise baked in flour. Starve the lords, feed the poor, he concludes. Walls crumble from within. Some captains nod, others frown. Balak rumbles, Tyrell host draws near. If they press, we fight on 2 fronts. Viserys smiles, crescent thin. 1 front at a time. We invite the rose onto thorns of our choosing. Next dawn, cavalry under Lysander gallops north, sabers flashing, while Strickland's engineers drag mangonels to wooded hillocks overlooking the south road. Viserys remains in camp, but never sits. He walks lines, speaks to nameless pikemen, listens to grievances about damp powder and chafed greaves. Each complaint becomes a note in his private ledger. Fix the powder, oil the greaves, keep hearts from rust. 3 days later, the first caravans burn. Smoke snakes upward, visible from the city walls. Refugees stagger through Kingswood scrub, clutching half-empty sacks. Viserys men feed them, bind wounds, send them onward with whispered instructions. Share the fare with your neighbors. Remember who spared you. Rumor becomes wildfire without green hue. Inside King's Landing, riots flicker. A baker found hoarding flour is dragged into the street. Gold cloaks attempt rescue, stones fly. On the second night, Flea Bottom lights bonfires and chant, "Viserys, Viserys." Only 50 throats, then 100. Then the cry rebounds beyond the dragon pit shell, and the night guard upon Aegon's high hill thinks he hears drums of war. Tyrell banners top the last rise of the Roserad a week later. Row upon row of bright spears glistening beneath banners, stitched with roses golden as harvest wheat. Lord Mace rides at the fore upon a palfrey broader than its master. His knights wheel behind like bees around a corpulent queen. Viserys orders Strickland to shadow the host with light cavalry, harrying, never engaging. Archers fell foraging wagons. Elephants pushed trees across track, forcing detours into marsh ground where hooves sink knee-deep. Tyrell outriders curse but cannot catch phantoms. Meanwhile, within the city, the Queen's Guard, Sir Boros Blount and Sir Loras Tyrell chief among them, secure the Red Keep gates, hard remaining grain in granaries under torchlit guard. Their vigilance stops hunger's belly, but not rumor's tongues. Each dawn fresh graffiti appears. The dragon feeds us, the lion bleeds us. Gold cloaks scrub walls clean, yet by dusk new scrawls bloom in ochre. VISERYS watches the city from hilltop at dusk, storm clouds bruising the sky. Balak approaches with sealed scroll. Ravens from Sunspear confirm a column of Dornish spears, marches north under Lady Nymara San. Their price, justice for Oberyn, autonomy preserved. VISERYS signs with flourish, granted upon my coronation. More cracks in the realm's brittle facade. He spends the night in quiet vigil outside his tent, winter stars glittering like nail heads, hammered into the black. Remember, he tells himself, kingship is not taken by sword alone, but by story, and story flows on blood and bread. Morning cloaks camp in fog. Sound travels oddly. Hoofs clop as though on hollow drum. A scout gallops from north. Tyrell host split. Half the carts mired, half seeking forage along the river. VISERYS snaps orders. Strickland's elephants to drive wedge, archers to volleys. But his eyes narrow. He senses a feint. Mace Tyrell is plump, but not fool. He calls Balak side. The rose lures us north so his south flank may relieve the city. We counter. Within an hour, 2,000 spearmen march under black and red banners straight toward the city's south wall. They halt within arrow range, erect campfires, raise tents. A demonstration rather than assault. From parapets, gold cloaks stare, uncertain. At twilight, VISERYS himself rides forward under flag of truce. An audacious gesture Strickland calls madness. But madness is often mere courage, draped in tatters. He reigns at arrow's length of the gate of the gods, calls up speaking trumpet. Sir Osmond Kettleblack he calls, for spies have named the man as gate captain now. I would parley. Kettleblack's head appears, helmet askew. Voice echoes. No parley with traitors. VISERYS' tone turns silk. Open and you keep command. Defy and you swing. He tosses a purse upward. It arcs, lands with metallic thunk beside the captain. Coins clatter like prophecy. Voices mutter behind the wall. That night, no gates open. But in secret alleyways, golden company knives pry loose bricks. My emissary slips inside, disguised as pot girl, handing loaves to the star. Prayers whisper in the sept. May the dragon break the wheel of hunger. In the north, Tyrell's scouts stumble upon cavalry ambush. Battle flares at dusk, rain and mud and the shriek of dying horses. VISERYS does not commit main infantry. He waits. Let arrogance dull the rose's thorns. 3 nights of skirmish bleed, lordlings dry of sleep and resolve. And when Mace awakens to news of bannerless sellswords pillaging his baggage train, he bellows rage enough to shake banners. In camp, VISERYS drafts letters to Lady Olenna. A garden thrives when pruned of dead stems, he writes. An invitation to conspire, laden with layers. The raven flies and days later returns, bearing parchment, scented faintly of dried roses. Olenna's script, dead stems indeed, but beware thorns that cling to your own roots. No pledge, no denial. VISERYS smiles, game accepted. Winter's teeth sink deeper. Flurries twist over the black water. In the city, bred riots erupt into full clashes. Gold cloaks, undermanned, retreat toward the Red Keep. Septon Maribald leads barefoot processions chanting for peace, only to be arrested by order of Queen Margaret. Crowds howl. Flea Bottom's night becomes a furnace of shutters barred and curses flung like stones. VISERYS judges the hour ripe. Under new moon, he summons his captains. Tomorrow we strike 2 blows, he says, voice of blades whisper. South gate hinges loose, our carpenters saw to that. Meanwhile, a gift delivered to the Red Keep. The gift, barrels of fish packed in salt, purchased days ago, left to rot. Smuggled via river under cover of darkness, hauled through the old sewage culvert once sealed, but now widened by Balak's sappers. The barrels burst in a cellar under Mager's holdfast, unleashing stench foul enough to drive cooks and guards from larders. Chaos breeds opportunity. Dawn breaks pewter, air raw as new-drawn steel. Trumpets blare from Tyrell camp. They march. Viserys notes their banner order. Armored front, supply wagons sandwiched, cavalry rear. He releases Strickland. Engage, but do not be pinned. Strickland nods, rides. The prince mounts a pale destrier, silver mane braided, armor black lacquer, etched with subtle dragons. No crown, too soon, but shoulders square with monarch's bearing. He and Balak lead a wedge of elephants masked in iron plates toward the south gate. Tension twangs through every rein. On wall-tops, archers notch, but inside, Kettle Black's conscience strains under purse weight. Viserys raises saber, drops it. Balak's horn signals. Elephant trunks trumpet, feet pound. The gate, already weakened, groans. A heartbeat later, Kettle Black's men throw inner bolts wide. Wood splinters outward. Elephants crash through like tidal bores. Viserys spurs in their shadow, cloaked in dust and roar. Cityside, startled gold cloaks either kneel or flee. No slaughter unless resistance persists. Viserys shouts amnesty turns with every yard. Flea bottom pours into streets, ragged but fierce. Red tokens, clasped in frozen fists, become weapons of pride. They cheer the dragons, fling caps. Small folk surge behind Viserys' wave, swelling it, while Balak's spearmen funnel them away from pillage toward open squares. Simultaneously, smoke unfurls over Mager's holdfast. Not fire, but choking reek of putrefied fish set aflame. Gods gag. Queen's retinue retreats up winding stairs. Confusion blossoms. Atop the ramparts, Tyrell archers see their gate breached and hesitate. Defend walls or keep. Viserys' column spills into the street of silk. He reigns amid brothels shuttered by decree, windows boarded. Madam cracks her door, spies silver hair, falls to knees. He nods once, remembered courtesy buys another lifetime of loyalty. Ahead, rising atop Aegon's hill, the Red Keep looms. Viserys feels pulse quicken, each beat thunderous. But war yet unsolved outside walls. Tyrell host briskly approaching, banners glimpsed beyond crenellations. He must close his fist before the rose petals scatter. He splits force. Balak, 3 elephants, 200 axemen remain to hold gate. The rest sweep uphill. Streets narrow, slopes steep, hooves slip on frost, sparks from iron shoes. Citizens cram doorways, some tossing, rose petals ironically stolen from old wedding processions. Others hurl chamber pots at gold cloaks, retreating. Riot becomes revolution. At base of the hill, a barricade bars passage. Wagons overturned, timbers studded with nails. Gold cloaks position crossbows behind. Viserys dismounts, strides forward alone, saber sheathed. Stand aside, he calls, voice calm as still water. I seek not your death. Captain's helm wavers. He knows rumor that many lords already fled the city, that Tyrell pay wagons seized. Viserys draws purse, tosses it. Coins spill, sliding across timber slats. A crossbow string creaks, but no bolt looses. Take the gold, keep your oath to the city, he says. Open the way, and you remain captains when the dragon sits the throne. A younger guard knocks arrow. Older captain lashes his arm aside, then lowers crossbow. Barricade parts. Viserys remounts, nods gratitude. One narrow stone, cut one without blood. They near the main gate of the keep, when thunder of hooves reverberates. Tyrell vanguard cresting the city's north gate, pouring onto cobbles. Viserys curses, Speed is life. He signals buglers atop elephants waiting below. Delay the roses. At Riverside, Strickland Springs trap. Booby-trapped cartloads of pitch line the alley. Flaming arrows rain. A quarter of Tyrell front ranks burn or plunge into river. Momentum falters, but numbers still greater, and swords thirst for vengeance. Inside the keep's outer yard, Maester Pycelle waddles, beard fluttering like molting goose, shrieking for order. Viserys brushes past him, saber now drawn, glimmering ominous. He strides up serpentine steps toward the throne room doors. They stand ajar. Within, torchlight flickers over iron blades, fused into seat of misery. Ser Boros Blount blocks threshold, sword trembling. Beyond, Queen Margaery clutches Tommen, cheeks tear-tracked. Viserys halts, 5 paces away, saber lowered. Ser Boros, he speaks evenly. Lay down steel. Your queen is safe. Your realm safer still. Boros glances back. Tyrell knights in gilded armor form semicircle around Boy King. Faces pale. Fear smells like sweat and steel. Viserys sheathes blade. Step forward. Open palms. Queen's guard dies only for true king. Is that not your oath? Blount's sword point sinks inch. Tommen looks up, frantic. Viserys kneels to meet the boy's gaze. Ocean blue shot with child panic. I will not harm you, he says. You shall keep every sweet thing childhood promises, but the iron chair must return to the blood that forged it. Margaery's voice quavers. You use, sir. He shakes head. I restore. He rises, eyes sweeping knights. Bend knee and keep your titles. Stand, and you gamble on Lord Mace breaching walls while your city burns behind him. Nantian. Sir Loras steps forward, face drawn, bandaged from Zeeg's skirmish scar. You offer mercy. Custom demands hostage. Not hostage, guest. Viserys addresses Tommen. Would you visit Dragonstone, young king? Learn history among dragons carved of stone. Tommen swallows. I like stories. Then you shall have the best. He extends hand. Silence hangs, taut. Then the boy slips small fingers into his. Blount lowers sword fully. Loras removes helm, kneels. Chain of submission rattles outward. Viserys turns as thunder cracks outside. Catapults hurling Tyrell incendiaries at south wall. He instructs Maya to escort queen, king, and their retinue to secure apartments. He strides onto balcony overlooking city. Flames lick rooftops where stray shot ignited thatch. Smoke rising in crimson veils. He signals to ravens roosting in wicker cages. Messages tied and released. They spiral into ashen sky bound for Tyrell camp. Your queen and king secure. Parley at dawn. Night falls as clash dwindles. Within city walls, Rose Knights find themselves hemmed by angry smallfolk. Viserys orders supply wagons open, bread distributed free. Hunger dampens rage, eases swords back to scabbards. Dawn arrives, steel gray. In the throne room, Viserys cleanses face with cloth scented of lemon. He approaches the iron throne, but does not sit. Not yet. Instead he stands to its side, hand resting on twisted armrest as though greeting an old, half-remembered friend. Lord Mace Tyrell enters, flanked by retainers, face gray with sleepless fury. Olenna Tyrell follows uninvited, eyes like honed shears. Viserys inclines head. Parley begins. Mace blusters. You seize my daughter, my king. Viserys interrupts softly. You speak of a king by marriage, not by blood. I offer Tommen sanctuary, not chains. Margaery remains queen of the Reachlands, free to return when peace settled. Olenna interjects, voice tart. Peace seldom settles where men crave crowns. He smiles faint. Then let women shape the peace. He proposes Tyrell retain Highgarden, supply grain for restoration, seat on small council. In exchange, they withdraw host, swear fealty. He sweetens further. Grant Paxter red wine immunity for fleet losses, and Laura's command of city watch. Olenna studies him, calculating. She sees resolve tempered by mercy, rarer than wildfire in Westerosi politics. She nods, tiny inclination. Mace opens mouth to protest. Her cane wraps shin. Agreement sealed. By sunset, Tyrell banners dip in salute from Roserad Causeway, host withdrawing south. VISERYS stands atop battlements, wind whipping hair, as crowds below chant. He breathes deep. The air tastes of ash and rose-perfumed accord. Yet victory always births new shadows. That night, a raven from east, Daenerys mark burned into seal. He breaks it, reads, Brother, Dot, I sail for Westeros with my children. Rhaegal and Viserion. Drogon flies ahead. I come not to kneel but to share the sky. Let us meet at Dragonstone under peace banner, else fire decide. Viserys folds the letter, gaze distant. The Iron Throne looms behind him, silent yet echoing destinies shaped by blood. He walks to it, fingers trailing the fused blades. So many fallen, so much ambition cooled into iron. He does not sit. Instead he turns away, descends steps two at a time. Tomorrow he sails to Dragonstone, to parley with the sister once thought lost. But tonight, King's Landing rests beneath Dragon Banner once more. Bells toll not for siege, but deliverance. The city exhales. Outside the Red Keep, small folk gather under moonlight, holding candles. Some sing ancient Valyrian hymns carried by grandmother's tongue. Viserys listens from a shadowed balcony. The melody weaves through air like smoke from burning incense, melancholy, hopeful, endless. He closes eyes. 5 hours of conquest. Yet the journey stretches beyond horizon. Rebuild realm, mend hearts, share crown with sister or face her flame. He feels weight of possibility settle upon shoulders like mantles spun of starlight and lead. Below, candle flames ripple, thousands of bright embers in the night. They remind him of the words he spoke upon the seas. Legends born of broken and lost. He whispers, silent vow, I will not fail them. I will not fail her. I will not fail myself. In the hush between heartbeats, a faint roar echoes from far above the clouds, distant yet unmistakable, the deep-throated call of a hunting dragon. Viserys Targaryen lifts his gaze toward the dark heavens, where wings beat against the stars, and an answering fire ignites behind his eyes, hot and relentless as dawn. Cold spray knifed across the bows of the basilisk's grin as she plowed through the mouth of Blackwater Bay. Her oars thrashing gray swells the color of beaten pewter. Viserys stood at the prow wrapped in a simple wool cloak, the winter wind flinging silver-gold strands across cheekbones, still scabbed from the siege's arrow graces. Behind him, the skyline of King's Landing dwindled to a jagged smudge on the horizon, spire, sept, and smoke dissolving into cloud-torn dawn. Bells tolled his departure in distant peals. Some rang welcome, others warning. Let them toll. The Dragon King must meet his sister upon the old family hearth, and thrones could wait upon blood. The flagship cut north and east on a quartering wind, escorting 3 lean Dramans and half a dozen supply hulks. Beneath deck, the Golden Company's veterans crowded benches, their breath fogging lamplight while they honed axes and re-waxed bowstrings. On the waist deck, Maya Misari bent over her ledger, quills scratching columns of figures to track every sack of barley, every bolt of sailcloth consumed on the brief passage. Discipline had not relaxed with victory. Viserys made certain of that. Victors who grew fat upon first spoils seldom tasted a second. He withdrew to the stern castle cabin only when the sun was a white smear above starved waves. Maps of Dragonstone carpeted the narrow table. Aegon's Wharf, the Sea Dragon Gate, the volcanic spine whose vents still breathed faint sulfur. He traced contours while Strickland stood nearby, helm tucked beneath one arm like a penitent offering. The captain's eyes lingered on the quiescent volcano, sketched in charcoal. "We anchor off the leeward side," Strickland said. "If her dragons take the air, the cliffs give us cover." Viserys' fingers stopped at a cove south of Driftmark, small enough to hide 2 Dramans. "I will go ashore with a score of my own. You will hold the fleet beyond catapult range, but within bowshot. If flame comes, answer with water. Wet sail, pitch-soaked blankets, smother fire as quick as wind feeds it." Strickland's jaw ticked. "And if she chooses steel over flame, then we meet steel with steel." Viserys looked up, gray violet eyes hard as frozen syrup. But words fly faster than arrows. "She listens first. She must. We share house and hurt, and even dragons know the sting of exile." "No." The captain inclined his head, though reluctance clouded the gesture. He had drilled too long in sellsword skepticism to trust the grace of siblings raised in ruin. Yet he had also witnessed gates swing wide at Viserys' single, whispered promise, and so deferred. 2 days later, Dragonstone's black silhouette loomed ahead, jagged like a charcoal shard thrust through the sea's blue skin. Plumes of steam curled from fissures down its spine. Cinders mottled the sky, black snow against sun-cut clouds. The fortress rising on its high spur was all talons and teeth, each gargoyle frozen mid-snarl. A single banner snapped from the tower called the King's Gate, red silk with 3 heads of gold, eyes picked out in green glass. The same dragon, but Daenerys colors, not his. Viserys chose a narrow longboat crewed by Summer Islander oarsmen who could row swift and silent. Balak stood at stern, Arak across his back. 10 spearmen followed, shields black, sigils stripped, a clear message that no company pride would posture before kin. The tide carried them into a sheltered inlet below the adamant stair. Cliffs reared sheer on 3 sides, surf thundered against pumice shelves. Above, the sea dragon gate yawned like the parted jaws of some impossible creature. Within that gullet stood a woman in crimson riding leathers, white cloak snapping behind her. Even at distance, Viserys knew her by the tilt of chin, by the silver hair streaming loose. Daenerys Stormborn, Khaleesi, breaker of chains, mother of dragons. She did not wait for him to ascend. Instead, she started down the steep switchback carved in the rock face, sandaled feet sure on slick basalt. 2 unsullied marched in step, a sword length behind, spears angled outward. Halfway down, she paused, letting him climb the last steps alone. A gulf of 7 paces separated them. Viserys inclined his head. "Sister." The single word tasted like iron and honey both. "Rather tough." Her voice carried the soft rasp of shifting dune sand. Eyes the shade of molten amethyst measured him, lingering on the gaunt planes of his face, the war nicks on his gauntlets, the faint wrinkles of hunger carved beneath cheekbones. "I heard a dragon ruled in the capital. I see instead a man." "Dragon and man are one," he replied. "Skin may bleed, but blood remembers flame." She tilted her head. "And do you remember how once you threatened to sell me for an army?" "Yes," he said without flinch. "I remember each cruelty my fear taught me to wield. I come to repay with more than coin." Behind him, Balak shifted. Unsullied hands tightened on ashen shafts. The cliff winds hummed cold. Viserys unbuckled sword belt, set saber edge down upon black sand, and stepped back. He raised bare palms. "I brought armies bought with reputation, not with your body. I brought bread, not bondage. I bring the throne half won, waiting for a queen to share its blade. His gaze did not waver. I come to kneel beside you, never above. The crackle of distant surf swallowed a long breath. Daenerys' eyes shimmered wet, wind or memory. He could not tell. She made no move to wipe them. When I walked the burning streets of Meereen, I dreamed of a brother who would shield me with fire. I found none. Now war delivers you with crown half-forged, asking me to complete the work. Why should I trust you? Because all others will bend when two dragons fly, not one. He knelt then, one knee sinking into gravel. The gesture alone buckled Balak's composure. He hissed under breath. Viserys ignored him. I cannot undo the boy I was. I can remake the man I choose to be. Daenerys descended the final steps. Arm's length away she halted, the white cloak billowing. Quiet as memory, she asked, "You will rise only when I command." Yes. She laid 2 fingers beneath his chin and lifted gently. Then rise, my brother, for dragons should bow to no one, least of all to guilt long spent. He stood. Silence cracked as wings exploded overhead, a whoosh like sails snapping in hurricane gust. Both turned skyward as Drogon banked low, scales night black trimmed red by morning sunlight, a manta of living ember. His roar shook salt from cliff face. Viserys felt ribs vibrate. The beast slashed past and alighted on an outcropping above, talons gouging basalt, eyes pits of burning jet. Viserion and Rhaegal circled distant clouds, their bellies molten gold. A snarling welcome, or warning. Daenerys placed palm on Viserys' chest where his heart pounded. He smells the hinge of fate, she said. Dragons know the taste of choice. And what taste, sister, does choice leave on your tongue? She smiled then, small and uncertain as dawn after storm. Ask me, after we dine in the chamber of the painted table. Within Dragonstone's great hall, candles guttered in the breath of venting smoke holes. Shadows of winged gargoyles pulsed across stone. The painted table spread beneath their feet like a map of war captured mid-blood. The landmass of Westeros carved in lime-washed beach, seas stained indigo, rivers in thin lead-filled channels. Old scars where Aegon's generals once stabbed daggers marked the dance of the dragons, Maegor's reign of blood, the Blackfire rebellions. Now fresh pins pricked the Stormlands, the Crownlands, newest of all, 3 ruby-headed tacks at King's Landing. Viserys paced its length in silent study while Daenerys watched from the hearth. She sipped spiced wine, eyes tracking him like a cat pondering a flicker moth. Maya Masari and Grey Worm conferred over supply scrolls near the archway. Balak leaned against a pillar, arms folded, exchanging rigid appraisal with unsullied guards. The room carried tension, coiled as a ballista rope. Viserys tapped a fingernail upon Dragonstone's own relief, one thumb-shaped island off the capital. We hold this the city and half the Crownlands. The Tyrells stand neutralized, rose petal peace, not full bloom, but sufficient. The north bleeds beneath Bolton flails, yet their blades are dulled. They will not march south until they mend their hides. The Ironborn raid, but claim no crown. Only the Vale remains uncertain. He glanced at Daenerys, and the Riverlands, Tully or Frey. Frey, she answered, mouth souring around the name. But Walder's sons quarrel over scraps. Give them new scraps. Watch them choke. Viserys' lips curved. He shifted a pin into the trident. A river floods, easiest at spring thaw. He circled the reach. Highgarden will feed us under treaty. We must ensure their wagons roll. Winter's teeth will gnaw until bone shows. Daenerys set goblet down. I broke chains in Slaver's Bay because hunger and fear forged them. If we starve the realm, We birth new chains. We starve only those who dare keep chains strong. He spoke gently, to reassure rather than rebuke. And we began with bread and flea bottom. Our cause wears two faces, iron for lords, wheat for small folk. Her gaze settled like warm rain. You learned more than swordplay in exile, brother. He met her eyes squarely. I learned what it is to be powerless. Grey Worm stepped forward, helm tucked beneath elbow. Khaleesi, captain. His low Valyrian accent cracked like sun-baked clay. Fleet of Volantine galleys spotted south of Stepstones. Reports say they hired by Yunkai masters, seeking revenge for Meereen. They sail west. Viserys' jaw set. They find Blackwater mouth, choked with scuttled hulks before they reach it. Daenerys' fingers spied it across painted table towards Shipbreaker Bay. Why fight them at sea when dragons burn ships swift? Let me take Drogon. Because flame on water is unpredictable, Viserys countered. Recall the Blackwater wildfire. We burn friend and foe alike in narrow currents. Better meet them in open sea, or break alliance before they cross. She frowned, but did not argue. Instead, she lifted a pin, shaped as winged flame, thrust its point into Volantis. Send ravens to my freedmen still in the city. Gold and promise break contracts. Viserys nodded approval. Maya had already begun scribbling notes. They spoke until candles guttered low, voices weaving tapestry of supply lines and siege contingencies, of pardons and prosecutions. At last, when only embers lit the hall, Daenerys poured 2 final cups of wine and raised hers. 2 dragons returned. Viserys touched rim to hers. To tomorrow written not in ash, but ink. Dawn coated Dragonstone's basalt in raw gold. Viserys stood atop Windworm Tower, cloak snapping, eyes fixed west. Gulls wheeled over churning surf. Beside him, Daenerys let her cloak whip free as well, the two of them like twin fragments of comet, long sundered now drawn back by gravity's iron thread. Father dreamed of returning, she said, voice almost lost in wind. But dream turned nightmare. Dreams only sour when fear roots deeper than hope. Viserys flexed gloved fingers on battlement stone. Tell me your fear, sister. She inhaled a draught of salt. Madness blooms in our line. I fear the fire within will scorch what we seek to warm. He placed right hand over hers on Merlon edge. Then let my water cool your flame, and your flame melt my ice. Alone, each breaks. Together, we temper one another. She looked down at their joined hands, then smiled small. If only the realm could be so simple. Realms are forged by less. A horn blast echoed from harbor, ships arriving. Viserys released her hand. Strickland returns from the city. Shall we greet captain and crew together? Show them the faces of fire and ice unbroken? Daenerys' answer was to stride toward the stair. Behind them, Drogon rumbled from his rocky perch, wings mantling, as though approving. Council convened in the Stone Drum that evening. Strickland, Grey Worm, Maya Misari, Tyrion Lannister, newly arrived under banner of truce. Thin, travel stain, scar glimmering in torchlight. Daenerys had granted him audience on promise of wisdom and wine. Viserys eyed him like a cat studying a snake half killed by carriage wheel. The dwarf bowed low. Disclaimers about dead fathers and dead kings tumbling sharp. Viserys opened before he could rattle on. What counsel brings a lion to the dragon's den? Opportunity, your grace. Tyrion's grin flashed, and a certain affection for breathing. I've smelt the perfume of wildfire. I do not wish to bathe in it again. Monsieur. He unfurled parchments. Intel on Cersei's hidden caches, on secret passages into the Red Keep, already irrelevant but informative, on Euron Greyjoy's rogue fleet, rumored to chase Kraken dreams in Sunset Sea. He spoke of gold flows from Casterly Rock, damning under debt, of Dornish plots. Viserys listened, weighing glibness against value. Daenerys nodded at intervals, but her gaze flicked toward her brother, often as if seeking silent confirmation. At last, Viserys leaned over the map. "What price your tongue?" "Safety, and a seat at the table not designed for dwarfs alone. I've served queens before. I would prefer to serve one who does not plan to bed me in iron spikes." Viserys' laugh surprised even him, short bark that echoed off basalt walls. "Then speak truly when your queen commands, not when jest suits you." He looked to Daenerys. "You freed slaves. Perhaps free a dwarf from his family's rot." She considered Tyrion long moments, then inclined head. "Serve us truthfully, and you will find more doors open than barred." The dwarf bowed again, deeper. "I shall see what wine cellars Dragonstone kept sealed. Truth flows best when tongues are oiled." After council dispersed, Viserys lingered at the table. Alone, he traced his finger along the spine of the Stormlands until it curled toward the wall. Memory surfaced. Nights in the free cities where he dreamt of walking that frozen rampart wearing father's crown, snow biting his eyes. Both seemed distant illusions in those hunger days. Now the wall remained remote but plausible. Crowns hung heavy on hooks within reach. Daenerys returned, cloak clasp undone. "You doubt him." "I doubt all men who speak too smooth, but a blade honed keen can cleave lies from truth. We shall hone him." She approached, studying table relief of King's Landing, pins marking new grain depots opened, soup kitchens funded from Tyrell coffers. "You changed," she said softly. "No longer a boy who threatened me." "So have you," he replied. "No longer the girl who feared being sold. We are both forged by fires apart." Her hand rested next to his atop the carved red keep. "Can two blades tempered different strike as one?" "They must," he whispered, "or the forge breaks both." They stood thus until torch sputtered out and darkness closed around. And in that stillness Viserys felt for the first time since exile's dawn, the fragile seed of peace sprout in his chest. Small, green, trembling but alive. Word of the sibling accord spread like dawn across still water. In King's Landing, gold cloaks now wore red sashes in addition to yellow cloaks, Viserys' subtle mark. In Old Town, the high towers lit beacons thrice to signal tentative alignment. Ravens from River Run carried scribbled pleas for arbitration. Edmure Tully, freed from Frey capture, begged relief for riverfolk harried by both Bolton tacksmen and broken men turned brigand. The wheel of war slowed, groaned, threatened to lurch again on New Spoke. Heeding Tyrion's counsel, Viserys dispatched envoys instead of armies, septons bearing grain, maesters carrying medicinal leeches, Dornish envoys promising fair trade. Red and bandages preceded banners. With each parcel of mercy, the legend of the returned dragons softened from dread to deliverance. Those cynics still muttered that one tyrant replaces another as seasons turn. Winter's lash grew crueler. Snows dusted the King's Road 2 feet deep, choking wagons. But Tyrell harvest convoys pressed on, under mounted outriders, wearing rose and dragon badges both. Viserys rode to meet them at Bitterbridge. A hazard, Strickland protested, but the prince insisted. Flurries caked his cloak as he took a spade from a drover's trembling hands and helped dig an axle free. The petty deed blossomed into saga. By week's end, half the realm repeated tales of the Dragon King who shoveled snow for peasants. In Dragonstone's cryptic caverns, he and Daenerys met nightly to spar. Steel licked against steel under torch flare as echoes boomed. They learned each other's rhythm, her sweeping Dothraki arcs versus his narrow Braavosi lunges. Sweat mixed, laughter erupted when blades locked stalemate, and they shoved shoulders like squabbling pups. In those moments, no crown pressed, no realm pleaded, only brother and sister who had finally met. Yet, external storms brewed. Far north, The wall sent ravens fringed with ice. Walking corpses sighted near Eastwatch. Wildlings panicked. Lord Commander pleading for aid. Maesters across Westeros scoffed, but Daenerys read the message thrice, the third time whispering old Valyrian prayers. VISERYS found her staring at hearth flames taller than a man. "You see threat," he said. "I see doom," she answered. "War of Thrones is child's play beside Night's kingdom." VISERYS exhaled slow. "Then we must unite the realm before the Cold King marches south." "How?" Her voice cracked. "Half the lords still weigh whether to bend or break. By showing them a spectre worse than dragons." Grey Worm interrupted. "They'd captured a sailor of Euron's fleet near Crackclaw Point." Delirious babbling of a fleet decimated by things half dead rose from moon fog to drag men screaming. Failed to dismiss, yet too near the wall's ravens to ignore. Viserys proposed boldness, a grand council in King's Landing's dragon pit. Call banners from every corner, show them living proof of the dead, perhaps a white capture. Tie lords into common cause beneath twin dragons. Daenerys agreed, though misgivings flitted in amethyst eyes. Plans laid, ravens flew. Jon Snow, now king in the north, according to whispered rumor, received letters sealed in crimson wax, inviting him south. So did Cersei Lannister, no longer queen but lioness cornered within Casterly Rock. Some would come for peace, others for knives disguised as words. In preparation, Viserys and Daenerys sailed to Crackclaw with a fast galley, seeking the shattered wreck of Euron's ships. They found hulls gnawed, sails in tatters, decks slick with half-frozen gore. Nightfall brought mists creeping offshore, luminous with phantom light. Their scouting party retrieved a corpse, skin milk-white, eyes glacial azure. It stirred in nets under moonlight, jaws snapping though neck half-severed. Grey Worms severed it fully. They bound torso in dragonglass chains mined from Dragonstone's veins, loaded it into iron-barred cage. As they set sail south, Drogon circled above like a crimson meteor, roaring at the creature's hiss. Viserys sensed a shift deeper than politics. The Game of Thrones mutated into a war for life itself. Back in King's Landing, Tyrion oversaw repairs to Dragon Pit. Stone masons, replacing cracked arches, leveling arena floor where bones still littered dusty sand. He insisted on barrels of wildfire removed from tunnels before lords gathered. One careless spark could incinerate future of realm. The pyromancers grumbled, but Viserys personally supervised disposal, remembering well Emerald Inferno of Robert's rebellion tales. The day of council dawned cold as memory. Lords filed beneath dragon pit vaults, stark banners wreathed in snow crust, Tully blue and silver, Arryn falcon on mountain field, Martell sun spear bright as desert mirage, Greyjoy kraken still slick with sea salt, even Baratheon stag resurrected under Gendry waters, newly legitimized in forged parchments. Cersei arrived last, escorted by silent armored giants of Qburn's craft, wearing black velvet sewn with dying stars. Her eyes, green as moss under frost, raked siblings where they stood side by side upon raised days. Viserys opened with courtesy and candor. Realm at knife's edge, winter's shadow, need for unity. Murmurs swept benches, some cautious, some mocking. Cersei's lip curled. "Unity under dragon talon is still talon," she said. "Shall we exchange one tyrant's teeth for two?" Daenerys let statement stand a beat, then gestured. Grey Worm hauled iron crate forward. When bars lifted, the white lurched, jaws stretching in silent shriek. Lords recoiled, spears leveled. Jon Snow strode forward. Pale scars on cheeks like claw slashes. Slam dragonglass dagger through the creature's hollow chest. It twitched, shriveled, went still. Silence crushed the arena. Viserys' voice cut that hush like whetted steel. The true tyrant is cold and faceless. It comes for all. Fight each other and you feed its army. One by one, lords rose with questions that smelled of fear. How fight dead? How feed armies when fields freeze? How trust dragons who burned Slaver's Bay? Daenerys answered, burning with fervor. Tyrion laced reason through hope. Jon Snow spoke of battles beyond the wall, eyes haunted. Yet alliance remained brittle until Viserys stepped from dais, descended to Cersei's level. He unsheathed saber, reversed grip, knelt before the lioness. Wear truce, and this blade stands between your children and the dark to come. Cersei's eyes flickered where children once lived, then died. She laid shaking hand on the blade's flat, not its edge. Shh, she whispered. Applause rippled, timid, then thunderous. The wall of suspicion cracked. Council wrote accords that day. Armies to march north, grain to stock Night's Watch, dragons to carry ranging parties high. In margins lords scribbled reservations, but sign they did. Wheels set motion. That night, Viserys climbed the hill of Rhaenys alone, moonlight bathing ruins of the dragon pit. He stood amid broken marble, where once Balerion the Black Dread roared. Echoes still resounded as wind through arched ribs of shattered dome. He pictured legions trekking snowfields, dragons lighting black skies above zombie hordes, siblings back to back, flame and frost meeting. He felt fear, yes, but fear harnessed to destiny's chariot. Footsteps rustled rubble. Daenerys emerged cloaked in white, bare fur. The realm signed, she said, voice hushed. But signatures do not silence doubt. No, he agreed. Deeds will. He gestured at open sky. Tomorrow we fly north to Winterfell. Let them see twin wings shade their walls. She stepped beside him, eyes bright with reflected starlight. And if the dead gather faster than we muster, then we burn hot and bright, even if only ashes remain. She looped arm through his. Together, always. Above them Regal shrieked, joined by Viserion, answering calls that trembled older than walls. Drogon soared from behind the hills, midnight across moon. The three wheeled as Trinity, descending until talons thudded sand and cracked stones. Viserys felt breath flood hot across his face, sea salt hair whipping. He placed palm upon Drogon's chitinous jaw, the beast rumbling acceptance. Daenerys stroked Viserion's pale snout. Brother and sister mirrored in dragon shadow flicker. Without command, the dragons flapped once, twice, and leapt skyward in a torrent of wind. Viserys and Daenerys watched until they vanished into black vault. The stars above seemed dimmer now beside that scaled fire. He faced his sister. 5 hours to Winterfell if wind favors. She smiled, fierce and fragile. We ride at dawn. The flight north cut through storms like obsidian blades slicing cloud wool. Dot. Viserys clung to leather saddle strapped behind Drogon's neck, air-knifing lungs with knives of ice, tears freezing in lashes. The ground unspooled far below. Checkerboard fields surrendered to white cloaks, rivers crusted with flows, forests skeletal. On horizon, the wall glimmered under pale aurora, a bruised lightning line marking edge of world. At Winterfell they circled twice above ancient towers, banners snapping, direwolf, dragon, lion, sunspear, kraken, symbols of impossible union. Snow-caked battlements crowded with wide-eyed northerners. Dragons landed in Godswood clearing where heart trees' crimson leaves shivered, though no wind stirred. Jon Snow met them, fur mantle white as frost wolf pelt, ghost of wonder on battle-scarred face. War council assembled in great hall, heavy with timber beams. Gendry Baratheon hammered revised dragonglass molds in the forge. Arya Stark tested Valyrian blade edges with calm intent. Tormund Giantsbane boomed boasts. Brienne of Tarth plotted shield walls. Samwell Tarly laid scrolls from the citadel describing rituals of ancient Valyrians who bound fire to ice. Viserys watched alliances weave forge heat into steel of purpose. He offered Golden Company veterans to stiffen green northern levies. Davos Seaworth accepted with nod grave. He listened as wildling scouts reported patches of sky glowing eerie blue beyond Skirling Pass. Glacier hearts pulsing with unnatural life. 2 nights before the march, Bran Stark, wheelchair half buried in snow, summoned Viserys to the weirwood. Snowflakes spiraled through blood-red leaves, melting on the boy's hollow cheeks. His eyes, ink-black, swirling into distant green, studied the prince as though time itself pulsed behind. "You dreamt of thrones since birth," Bran murmured. "Yet thrones break those who clutch tight." "I do not clutch," Viserys replied evenly. "I wield, and when I am done, I will lay aside tools no longer needed. The wheel may break the breaker." Bran reached forward, hand ghost light upon Viserys' wrist. Vision washed over the prince. Flash of shattered ice, Drogon thrashing under spears of cold blue crystal. Daenerys screaming his name amid storm of snow and ash. He gasped, staggers. Bran's voice drifted. "Remember your promise to temper fire and ice. Lose that, lose all." The boy's grip loosened. The vision ebbed like rip current letting go. Viserys exhaled, chest heaving. "Prophecy," he snarled. "Curse of Targaryens." "Prophecy is a road," Bran said. "You choose the turnings." Viserys bowed head to snow-blanketed roots. "Then I choose her over throne. If choice must be made, I will burn crowns to save my sister." "Hold fast to that," Bran whispered, eyes closing as though wind blew through his skull. Viserys left Godswood shaken, but resolute. March day arrived. Columns lined the King's Road northward, unsullied shield phalanx, Golden Company elephants cloaked in burlap against frost, northern pikemen under direwolf banners, Dornish sand steeds prancing sideways in confusion at Snowsqueak. Dragons soared overhead, intercepting scouts of the dead. Far off, walls of storm cloud churned unnatural lightning, blue and white flicker. Viserys rode at head beside Daenerys, Jon Snow, and Sansa Stark, cloaked in gray-white wool. Behind them stretched tapestry of colors once irreconcilable, now braided by frozen necessity. They advanced 3 days through blizzard that ate sound. On 4th dawn, outriders sighted army of the dead arrayed on frozen lake beyond last hearth. Tens of thousands of corpses in ragged hush. Above them hovered the Night King upon undead Viserion, shattered horns glittering ice. Enemy dragons shrieked, a sound like glaciers fracturing. Shock lanced Daenerys, Viserys' closed-gloved hand around hers. "He stole your child," he said, "but we will reclaim what he cannot touch, life." Battle plan cascaded. Dragons strafe white ranks, cavalry flank, dragonglass follies pierce, sorcerers light barriers with wildfire. Yet all strategies crumbled when Night King's spear of frozen flame felled Rhaegal in first clashing roar. Beast spiraling into lake, steam geysering. Daenerys screamed grief, diving Drogon to charge. Viserion undead countered, breath a hurricane of razor snow. Drogon wheeled, claws raking rotten scales, but frost embers stung skin. Viserys spotted gap. Enemy dragon fixated on sister. He spurred steed through melee, seized fallen dragonglass lance, and scrambled up ridge of broken pines. From vantage he hurled with all wrath, spear-streaked azure night, punching into Viserion's rotten shoulder joint. Undead wings faltered. Drogon-sized moment, jaws locking on throat. The beasts plummeted, slamming onto ice. Snow exploded, shards stabbing sky. Viserys sprinted downslope, saber bared, ignoring whites shrieking behind. Grey Worm's phalanx shield wall covered his dash. At crater edge he found Daenerys half buried beneath Drogon's wing, blood seeping from forehead where saddle strap snapped. He dragged her clear as undead dragon thrashed anew. Night King advanced across ice, blue eyes hellfires of cold. He raised second spear. VISERYS stepped before Daenerys, saber raised though blade shivered in arctic gale. Night King cocked head, as if curious what burning soul inhabited such fragile shell. The spear left his hand, slicing dark. VISERYS moved, not away but toward, meeting death like long-awaited lover. He knocked the shaft aside with hilt strike, ice shattered on steel, splinters ripping cloak. Pain scored shoulder, yet he stood. Night King frowned, first flicker of confusion. In that flicker Drogon's tail whipped, smashing frozen monarch backward. Jon Snow barreled through whites, Longclaw a comet trail, driving Night King onto fissuring ice. Arya Stark vaulted from shadow, Valyrian steel dagger, plunging where cracked, blue breastbone glowed. Shattered ice spider-webbed, Night King's face split in ripple of shocked fury, then fissured shards cascaded into void with body of unnatural king. Silence swallowed battlefield save distant white shrieks collapsing into limp husks. Frost clouds parted, aurora pulsed crimson. Dragons roared triumph and grief, both. VISERYS knelt by Daenerys, cradling head. Her eyes fluttered open. She saw a speckled sky. Is it done? For now, he answered. The long night ends when dawn rises in hearts, not just sky. She clasped his hand. You bled. I will bleed more if needed. He smiled through tears he did not know formed. But the promise holds. Together. None near. Woe. She touched wound at his shoulder, whispered Valyrian healing charm. Their mother once sang amid falling towers. For a heartbeat he tasted that distant lullaby. Felt child self safe again. Then horns blared victory. Armies cheered. Wind carried smoke of funeral pyres soon to burn. Fallen friend and foe alike. VISERYS helped her rise. Together they climbed atop battered Drogon's shoulder. Snow éclat glittered ice-crusted straps. They surveyed field whitened with sorrow, yet scrubbed of death's motion. Jon Snow raised his sword high. Brienne saluted. Tyrion snorted relief. Grey Worm knelt amid shield wall, chanting Valyrian oath. VISERYS lifted Daenerys' hand aloft. Behold your queen, he shouted. Voice carried like thunder across frozen tarn. And your king, she added, turning to him. For he forged legend with courage, not birthright. Cheers cracked winter hush. Yet VISERYS gazed not at crowd but at sister, saw in her eyes reflection of his own. Fire tempered, ice melted, purpose fused. Prophecy's poison chalice still loomed, but they would sip together or shatter it upon stone. Dragons trumpeted overhead, wings beating ember sparks that glimmered like new constellations. On horizon, the first blush of true dawn bled rose into black. VISERYS breathed deep the scent of snow, ash, and hope interwoven. Now, he whispered, we rebuild a world the dead can never claim. And keep watch, Daenerys replied, so night never finds such power again. He squeezed her fingers, saber point resting against ice that rapidly melted under newborn sun. They had 5 hours of story behind them, a lifetime of rule ahead, and no subtitles to frame what came next. Only living script, written in step and breath and promise renewed each dawn. Together they turned toward coiled columns awaiting command, and the realm exhaled, waiting to be remade in the image of dragons who had at last, after exile and fire, learned to share the sky.